Hello, everyone. It's me, Khemraj Joshi. I represent the group 10, and we have four members in it, including me, Rajan Kesi, Raja Abbas, and Prince Kohli. Today, we are going to give presentation on the complexity on recognition of intangible assets for any organization. To start with, table of content, we have introduction, classification of assets, complexity in recognition, key obstacle in identifying intangible assets, and lastly, conclusion. Moving toward the next slide, we have the introduction of the presentation. Uh, the balance sheet of an organization is incomplete without assets, which are key to its financial viability. They represent for ir- irreplaceable resources that the entity has control over and that can be expected to generate future gains for any organization. When considering a company's total financial status, solvency, and ability to comply with its obligation, assets are an essential element. So every organization should want to keep their asset. They are valuable for the company to run in the industry. And the classification of assets. Generally, there are two types of, we can separate in two types, like tangible assets and intangible assets. To talk about tangible assets, these are in physical, touchable, and possessing a real existence are items that are tangible. Examples consist like housing, land and buildings, machinery, tools, motor vehicles, and currencies. And we can say we can touch it. They have the existence, and the intangible assets are like physical asset. In comparison to physical asset, intangible assets do not have physical existence and are not as tangible or measurable item like trademarks, intellectual property, copyrights, goodwill, private technology, and relationships with clients or among them. And now I'd like to invite my colleague to continue the presentation. Thank you from my side. Uh, Rajan, I would like to invite Rajan Kesi. Thank you.
Thank you, Khemraj Joshi. I'm going to talking about complexity in recognitions. Organizations must be professional judgment and follow accounting standard like the International Financial Reporting Standards, also known as IFRS, in its Australian equivalent, the Australian Accounting Standard Board (AASB), to properly identify intangible assets, a multifaceted task with considerable complexity. However, several non-physical assets fall within the category of intangible resource, includes patents, trademarks, copyrights, goodwill, and intellectual property. Due to their unique features and the highly subjective nature associated with their appraisal, intangible assets are challenging to recognize and are complicated to determine their worth. Thank you, Khemraj Joshi. My name is Rajan Kesi. In this slide, I'm going to talking about key obstacle in identifying intangible assets. First of all, I am going to talking about goodwill and impairment. A significant intangible asset frequently seen in company mergers is goodwill, which is the distinction between the acquisition price and the true value of acquiring recognized assets. Organizations must periodically assess the goodwill value to see if any reduction in value has taken place which can lead to large write-downs of that have a direct effect on the statement of financial positions. And there is one example, uh, it's related to the goodwill and impairment. Consider a retail empire that gradually purchases out several lesser-known brands. Uh, Goodwill evaluations may be needed due to change in the marketplace, customer habits, or competitions. The requirements to establish the true market value of the reporting units that's to which goodwill belongs is one of many complex calculations and elements that go into this process. Now moving into next slide.
Thank you, Rajan, for giving me the opportunity to talk about. In this slide, I will be talking disclosure requirement. Organizations need to comply with strict regulations regarding disclosure about their intangible asset under IFRS and AASB to help stakeholders make well informed choices. These rules were created to be clear and easily understood. However, compiling through data on intangibles can be difficult, particularly when dealing with companies with many intangible assets. And the other one is subjectivity in valuation. This inherent subjective associated with the intangible asset assessment is one of the most prevalent challenges in identifying assets that are intangible. Intangible assets usually lack in established marketplace, making their valuation heavily dependent on expert analysis in contrast with tangible assets, the prices of which are frequently easily identifiable. As a result of this, the same intangible asset may be valued quite differently by several firms. Moving into next slide, in this slide, I will be discussing identifiability and separability. Intangible assets that are intangible must adhere to certain specifications such as separability and identifiability as specified by IFRS and AASB. To be identified, separability is the ability of asset to be severed from entity and sold or exchanged, whilst being identifiable is the ability of the asset to generate additional income. It can be, though, tough and need a lot of judgment when deciding if an intangible asset fits with these criteria. And the other one is internally generated intangible asset. Additionally, complexity is brought on the identification of internally developed intangible asset. Internally generated intangible assets are only recognized when specific criteria are met. According to IFRS and AASB, these criteria include proving the financially viability of the asset and the entities intend to use, sell, or license it.
Thank you, Raza. So now I'm continue the another slide which is about legal compliance and regulation. So a crucial factor that increases the complexity of the process is regulatory and legal compliance which identify intangible assets. So its clear and accurate reporting of financial information requires adherence to accounting principles, industry rules and local regulations. So move to the conclusion of the next slides, which is about the issues highlight the essential importance of transparent and precise accounting information, permitting stakeholders to make selections that are well informed by an in-depth understanding of a company's intangible assets. At last but not the least, we have the summarize, which is about firms must go through these intricacies, seek guidance from professionals, and keep up with challenging rules regarding accounting to properly identify, manage, and declare their intangible assets. So, thank you so much.